500 bucks.
You save about 1,000 plus.
To work out cheaper for me.
3,000-4,000.
215, even more.
It's for 200 plus. 400 bucks of savings. Okay guys, so today I'm reviewing the Ferrari SF90 Stradale. You would have seen my earlier video at the launch, and you probably recall that car had a very bright shade of red, the trademark Ferrari red, and it has that distinctive stripe pattern here at the front, which this car does not have. Now, what is the significance of that? So it turns out that stripe is not merely a decorative stripe. If you remember, I showed you in my previous video, the stripe, firstly, it's not a sticker, it's painted. So it's painted on the body of the car, okay? And it signifies that the car is equipped with what we call the Fiorano pack. So the Fiorano pack basically is basically it's a track pack for this car, the SF90 Stradale. The absence of that stripe indicates that what you're looking at here, this is the road going car. This means that this car is tuned for road use, tuned for your daily use. Alright, and we're reviewing it today. This example here is a special left-hand drive unit shipped in by Ferrari for demonstration purposes. It's very low on options. So in this state that you see here, this car costs 1.9 million ringgit before taxes. You add in tax, it goes to 4 million. But what does 4 million ringgit buy you? To start with, 1,000 horsepower. So it all comes from the 3.9 liter twin turbo V8 that sits, well, somewhere here, all right, in the middle of the car. So this is in terms of its layout, this follows the Berlinetta configuration, Ferrari's Berlinetta V8 mid-engine configuration. All right, and it's very cleverly positioned. You see, because in addition to the V8 engine, the SF90 Stradale is a plug-in hybrid. Okay, so you have the V8 engine together with a motor driving the rear wheels, and you have a separate motor that drives the front axle. Okay, that's just the start of it. So the other thing about this car is that the transmission does not have a reverse gear. Okay, why is that so? Because reverse function is executed entirely by the front motor. Okay, so they have made use of that additional complexity they have built into the drivetrain, all right, and they balance it off with reducing the weight and the complexity and the size of the transmission. So the transmission here, the 7-speed transmission here, only has 7 forward gears. The motor up front takes care of the reversing function. All right, and so there you have it. That's why this car, all right, from a mechanical standpoint, this car has 1,000 horsepower, all-wheel drive, plug-in hybrid. Yeah, and the cost of one of these things, 4 million with taxes. So we'll take you closer, give you another look at the design. Now, when I first saw the red car earlier on at the launch with the stripe, I was absolutely blown away by the design. But this blue color, right, gives a slightly different take to it. It gives a more understated take to the design, and it's still just as arresting a sight as the one before. So the launch car had carbon fiber wheels. This one is more sensibly optioned without them. It's nice to have, but it's not something you want to scratch, right? And in terms of its proportion, very classic Ferrari, and look at it, it's just beautiful. Okay, you come to the back here, you can see the 4-ring light designs, and this is a retractable spoiler. And the unique thing about this is that this spoiler, this is the default position of the spoiler. When it retracts, what it does is this thing actually dips down, okay, to create the air dam effect, and for you to use for extra downforce or extra braking drag if you when you are stepping, all right, when you want to brake. Okay, and you can see at the back here the sheer aggressive design of the rear diffuser elements. My god, it's the look at the intricate the intricate layout of all these aerodynamic fins and features here. Okay, so this, you can see here the twin exhausts mounted quite high up the car's waistline. But if you look here in the engine bay, okay, so with every Ferrari it's mandatory to look inside the engine, and you can see how low that V8 sits, all right, relative to the car. It's you see where Bobby and Leon are sitting inside here. The engine is sitting like almost at their shoulder level here, if you look at it, all right. So it gives this car, I would imagine, a very, very low center of gravity, all right, that is really right at the heart of the car, and this has promising implications on its dynamics, I'm sure. And I like this design, and I particularly like this design feature here. It really reminds me of that of a Ducati motorcycle. Okay, so here's another design feature that you can see here. The hose it peaks up over the body panel here. There has to be, I think this has to be a deliberate design nature, because, well, firstly, I would imagine it partially hinders the aerodynamics of the car, but it's a nice little design treat. And if you come up here, you can see the opening of the fuel of the caps. This side is where you refuel the car, and this side is where you recharge. So we shall step inside the cabin. So this is where you open the door, press this down. Okay, this is the keyless entry button. Step in. Okay, the design of this cabin is well, typical Ferrari, but well, this is the modern Ferrari cabin treatment. Okay, I'm just going to start up the electronics of the car, and you can see everything is touch. It's a almost fully touch control, other than the gear, the pedal shifters, the signals, all right, signal lights. Everything else is touch operated. Okay, even the engine starts the button, and to me, this is something that I'm still coming to terms to accept, because I believe there should be a physical feedback, tactile feedback, when you of pressing a physical button, you know, with a spring inside when you start the engine. Okay, because starting the engine should be an occasion every time, especially in a Ferrari. So there you see a fully digital instrument cluster up there. This is the side mirror control. Allow me to show you. All right, and how it works is you press this and you drag the button, or drag the pad. Not bad. This is nice. Okay, and over here you can see this is the aircon control. Very simple. All right, so this whole panel here has also in a way it's very nicely sculpted, even though there's very minimal functions here. Aircon vent for the driver, aircon vent for the passenger, and so this little screen here is for the front passenger to access whatever functions that he or she wants. Okay, settings and all that. Okay, so very minimalist cabin, typical Ferrari design. Inside here is the glove box, right? And here, this is a very narrow center tunnel, but you've got this nice tray here to store your phone, single cup holder. This is the SOS button, hazard lights. Now this is a tribute to old generation Ferrari gear shifters. Okay, so this is the button to engage reverse. This button is for you to choose you want auto or manual, and this is to activate launch control, which because we are testing this car on public roads, it will be very irresponsible of me to try this. All right, so power window switch, and here we have. This is the key. Reminds me of a lighter actually, but this is the key. And you see, the thing about this is that I've mentioned to my friends in Ferrari before. See, so to engage reverse, all right, to engage reverse, it's just this function, okay, and engage auto or manual. So there's actually that light up there, okay, to show. You see that light? Okay, all right. Now, I personally feel they could have made this a more physical thing by, you know, allowing you to fully yank the switch down for a more satisfying operation. But that's really nitpicking. Okay. Overall build of this cabin, design of this cabin is a major step up actually from the past generation Ferraris. It feels more expensive here. I know it's a bit nitpicky for me to comment on build quality in a Ferrari, but in this case, I think it's good to highlight the actual improvements that are made to the car. So to open the door, press this button and you exit. So we're gonna get the car ready for a drive. Okay guys, so this is my first time experiencing 1000 horsepower anywhere, let alone public road. Anywhere. I have never driven 1000 horses before, and well, it's not exactly it's I don't know, can I say it's intimidating? Well, I don't feel it, but certainly I'm being very cautious with my right foot. The ride is firm, and I'm keenly aware that this is a very low riding car. So when I see uneven surfaces, I am extremely cautious. So there's a tall speed bump up ahead. What's the risk of scratching this? Ooh. Damn.
That's just the underbody.
Alright. Okay, so Ferrari has no signal stalks. You press that button on the steering wheel. Wait, what lifter are you talking about?
There's a lifter, a nose lifter on the road.
Oh, alright, so that's to raise the ride height.
Yep, exactly.
Ah, nice. And this, so the front is air suspension, right?
Yep.
So the air suspension up front lifts the front end up when you are going over tall speed bumps or tall ramps. Now this option is this function is not available when it's taken out of the car when you order it with the Fiorano pack, because I mean the thinking behind it, of course, is that the Fiorano pack is something to get the car track ready. All right, and when your car is made to be track ready, you don't need the ability to lift the front end, and what you want instead is to reduce as much weight as possible in order to be able to go as fast as possible. So now I unlift the car, it drops down. Okay, so I just gave a slightly more pressure on the throttle, and what surprised me was that the delivery of power does not come in an overwhelming fashion. At least, well, let's... Oh fuck, it's rapid. It's rapid. The brakes grab nicely, but there is still that manageable linearity to the power delivery. And you know, the thing is that as soon as I release the throttle, the car car just very quickly settled back to a civilized behavior. Very rapid car indeed. My god, these brakes, they grab. The steering seems less fidgety than the FA Tributo and also the what was the other car, the GT4 Lusso T. I remember when I drove the GT4 Lusso T coming down from Genting Highlands, the steering was the front end was very reactive to the steering inputs. This one seems to feel a bit more settled,
A bit more natural.
yeah, a bit more natural.
Lusso T is quite heavily electric assisted. Whereas this one is a bit more, of course, it's the driver, it's the track car. So you're supposed to be having your same input as usual.
Yes.
So since we're in hybrid mode, the engine's actually cut off. So if you go to your revs is 0. We're in E-drive now. So you can go through the different modes. You've got E-drive.
This is now
completely
full E-drive, right?
Exactly. You got hybrid, and then you've got performance. Performance just means your the battery actually runs 24/7. The battery is always running. It's always there to assist you. But it's whether or not you have the setting that will kick in the battery as an E-drive.
Okay. So E-drive is basically locks it into full electric.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Hybrid will use the electric drive when it's necessary. Performance will always leave it in petrol.
And the transformation in character couldn't be more stark. Now as I take off. So now in E-drive, however hard I step on the throttle, the petrol engine won't kick in.
Correct.
And my car is now a front wheel drive because there's no drive going to the rear axle. Alright, so let's see what's it like driving a front wheel drive Ferrari. But once the battery juice runs low, the car will self-adjust back.
It will have a warning, and then from there it will notify that you should conserve your battery power. On your gauge, of course, you've got the range. So currently we've got 8 kilometers now. One thing you will notice later is once you're in performance mode, that's when the regenerative energy is at its most efficient. And you'll see the numbers climbing. You'll see the range number climbing. You'll be quite impressed actually how fast it charges.
It's so weird, you know, that speed, that sensation of speed is not accompanied by you know, the oral assault. But make no mistake, guys, this engine kicks up quite a bit of oral drama, because earlier on today, when we started the car at the showroom, we can actually feel the vibration through the seats as the engine was idling. I didn't notice that this was blue. This is a denim shade blue here. Wow.
Again, it's a normal Ferrari, so everything is customizable.
Wow.
So now that we're back in hybrid, the engine will kick back in.
Alright. It's a bit more frantic driving this car when the engine is running. But that's really what driving a Ferrari is all about, you know, that frantic nature that also gives it the sense of occasion. And the other thing is that we sit really low in this car. It feels almost, now I look outside, it feels almost like I'm sitting on the tarmac already. One thing I have to say, the brakes are fantastic, and it's of course helped by the regen system. The modulation of the brakes also feel pretty linear, so it's not difficult to control, but you know, the sense of assurance you get when you just step on those anchors, the way it stops the car dead and true, feels entirely commensurate with the performance it has on tap. And such is the acceleration potential you have, is that when you want to enter another lane, however fast the car behind you is coming, you know you have enough to step ahead of him and pull clear without needing the other guy to step on his brakes. Clear road. You know, I like how rapid it feels. But it's, at the same time, it just doesn't feel that scary. It doesn't have that intimidating sensation to it. So make no mistake about it, the top end, if you really go like 80%, 90% on this car will be pretty scary to drive. But what I'm saying is that you can quite easily live on 30% and 40% on this car. It keeps you going plenty fast enough. But what it does is that the car is set up in such a way that it asks you, do you really want to try to go and push yourself to 80%, 90% or 100%, right? And you always have that choice in your hand. It is the calibration of the controls that allow you to precisely determine just how much you want to exploit of this car. You see, because some cars are calibrated in such a way that even with gentle throttle openings, they lurch all over the place. But this one, it requires you to exert deliberate effort in order to progress your way up the performance spectrum. So you see, right now I'm driving on a very jammed LDP, and the car hardly feels in any way demanding or intimidating to drive. I'm just rolling it along in traffic no differently than any regular car. I mean, granted, there is that reduced visibility over the rear view mirror, but you know, front, side, and the calibration of controls, the steering response, the brake response, the throttle response, it all feels, it's all linear enough that it's a setup that I can live with this on a day-to-day basis. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that this is a car suitable for your daily drive. But what I'm saying is that, let's say like you have one of these in your garage, and you suddenly decide that today you're going to take this car to work. You can do so. See, the brakes are so linear. The throttle response, the initial travel of throttle is not so aggressive that this car becomes, you know, a scary thing to operate in close, in tight spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's mainly all down to the mode that you're in.
Yeah, no, even in performance mode right now, right? I give it gentle throttle application. Mm-hmm. The response is sensible, right? In some cars, right, when you put into like whatever race mode, sport mode and all, you just tap the throttle a bit and it lurches, you know. This one does not have that. This one, it requires you to, it's in a way calibrated to ask you, hey bro, are you sure, do you really want the full performance or not? Step on it harder and I'll give it to you. But the thing is, you have to step on it, you have to take that effort to step on it harder. Even the regen braking, right, the calibration of the regen, the stopping is quite nicely done.
Yep.
The braking feels quite natural. So I think the telling thing is that I don't feel at all intimidated by handling this car, you know, in weekday traffic, in tight roads, next to big lorries. And right now, at this moment, I'm driving this car no differently than I would a Myvi or a Vios. Just going about my business, you know, traveling for work. And I think this car, right, to sum up, this car is a very it's a nice introduction by Ferrari going into the realm of plug-in hybrids? Because before this, Ferrari did not have a plug-in hybrid, right?
I mean, we had the LaFerrari, but of course that's limited.
That's limited.
And you are unable to change the modes.
Yeah.
So this is the full, first Ferrari that you can choose fully electric mode.
Fully electric mode.
Yeah.
And you know, as we always say, right, electrification of the automobile is an inevitable development. So this is a very big step by Ferrari in that direction, and in this current application they are still able to execute it whilst delivering the kind of driving drama that we have come to expect from Ferraris. Now what we did not expect, however, is that compared to the more traditional image that we have of Ferraris, is how livable and how usable this car's behavior is on a day-to-day basis. So that to me is the biggest surprise, because when I first heard that, when I was processing the fact in my head that I'm going to be experiencing a 1000 horsepower car for the first time on public roads, I never expected it to be quite so manageable, you know, quite so unintimidating.
Yep.
So if you act irresponsibly in this car, it will bite you in the ass pretty hard. But the thing is, they have set it up in such a way that there is still much to, and it still has much to offer when you choose to enjoy it responsibly. Yeah. So, and plus the fact that this car, it's just beautiful. The design of this car is beautiful. The interior is, as I said earlier, this feels like a big step up in interior quality from Ferraris of I think the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
But whilst it still maintained that Ferrari design, that familiar Ferrari design philosophy, with the Roma, you saw that they were trying to go a bit towards the direction of Aston Martin, but with this one, it's still very recognizably a Ferrari design. And the way Ferrari did it is that, right, it's very cleverly done in such a way that right now this is introduced without making the F8 Tributo irrelevant. You see, because right now what we have here is that this is the Berlinetta layout, mid-engine V8, just like the F8 Tributo. But instead of making this an F8 Tributo or F8 Hybrido, which would have immediately rendered the F8 irrelevant, Ferrari's just started a whole new model, call this the SF90 Stradale. This is something entirely new. So the thing is that what it means is that people who buy the F8 Tributo are doing so because they are choosing to live on with internal combustion engine, as opposed to not buying the top version of the F8. Because whereas if this was called an F8 Hybrido, or F8 hybrid or whatever, right? People will be looking at this and say, people will be looking at the whole F8 range and say, oh, okay, I want the best.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And that would render the F8 Tributo completely irrelevant. So that is very, very clever setting up of the range by Ferrari's part, and they showed that, okay, fine, I can totally ignore the model hierarchy. I will have that Berlinetta that has more power than my V12 flagship. So what? But the customer who chooses the F8 Tributo is not made to feel that he or she can't afford the hybrid.